What is up, my unemployable friends? It is Adam and the crew here again in the studio, about to bang out another awesome episode. And we have a new panel member here today. Did you guys notice when you came in, Big Red, or whatever we're going to end up calling him?
Boxing kangaroo.
The boxing kangaroo. What do you think?
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's, we're just trying to, as we said, the naming convention here will take place over time, and yeah, Eric, we'll have some fun with it, mate. That's for sure.
You seem like you're a bit nervous. You got to look over your bag in case you'll get kicked.
Yeah. You know the feeling.
We will do a naming contest with you guys in our audience to name this big red kangaroo sometime soon. But no, that's going to be a lot of fun. Today's show is going to be quite unique because, guys, we are learning as we go here. You've got four guys that are business guys. This is our first time in podcasting, and we are loving the feedback that you're giving us. I was in the comments this morning in the YouTube and just seeing what you guys had to say, and we deeply, deeply appreciate, first and foremost, your attention. Any second you're spending with us, we value. We know there's lots of choice when it comes to content. But one of the things we wanted to do today is test a slightly different format. We want to make sure that you get value, you get entertainment, and you get learning, stuff that you can actually take away, because we know our audience are people who are unemployable or aspire to be unemployable because their dreams are bigger than a job. And so we hope that when you come to this pod, you do walk away with practical, actionable learnings as well, not just shooting the shit about politics and business affairs as they affect us as entrepreneurs in the real world. There is one story we're going to cover today at the start that is a huge story globally. But today what we're going to be doing is diving into three real deals with these guys on the panel. So one is James's recent acquisition of a healthcare company in Brisbane. We're going to talk about that in a bit more detail and some of the practical things he's doing to turn that around. So if you have an e-commerce business or you sell physical products or you aspire to start a side hustle with practical, actionable strategies you can scale with, make sure you're tuned for that. We're going to talk to Mark about a recent transaction he did in land. As you know, Mark has sold over 3,000 plots of land in his career, which is exceptional, but we're going to actually talk about how he actually invests in land and gets incredible returns. And we're going to talk about a real estate deal that Eric completed not so long ago in Burleigh Heads, a residential subdivision, where he basically bought a piece of property, knocked the house over, built some more stuff on. Then we're going to go through all the numbers, break it down for you guys so that you can go, wow, that's how these guys actually make money. And so we think it's going to be an awesome show. But the big news overnight was the one and only Donald Trump being disqualified, at least in Colorado, for being on the US presidential ballot. What do you guys think of Donald Trump and this news? Let's lead up. I mean, this is the king of US politics. And at the end of the day, it does affect the world, who becomes the US president. But it just seems like Teflon Don is finally something has stuck to him. And what do you think the ramifications are? What do you think is happening here?
Well, when you say stuck to him, there's an appeal, of course, that goes on with it. But look, anyone that can publicly say they're going to grab women on the pussy and get away with it, I don't think he's probably still got a shot at Colorado.
Yeah, well, he got elected US president after that. That was part of his campaign to get elected.
I mean, the reality is his name is being mentioned more than any other presidential candidate at the moment still. So.
Do you think it's an inside job?
Well, it's actually Republicans, the litigants. The Republicans have brought this case forward in Colorado, so that's interesting. I mean, I haven't been well read on this issue because it just broke, but
wow,
Republicans, not Democrats behind it.
It's so fascinating. It is a Democrat elected judging panel that has done it, but. Look, all I want to say about it is if you're going to have a shot at the king, you got to kill him. Because I think if this doesn't kill him, this is going to, either way, this is going to galvanize Trump supporters.
For sure.
And this could actually, as you've pointed out, this story is dominating the headlines. You can't buy this level of publicity. Whether this will actually end him or not. For those of you who don't know the story, effectively, they have ruled in a Colorado court that Donald Trump should be held accountable and is actually in violation of US law and cannot run for on the ballot in Colorado because of his involvement in the riots where he was deemed to be, at least by this court, involved in insurrection. And those laws were actually brought about after the Civil War, and it was kind of to stop it around that time, but they still stand today. And what Donald's really worried about, because he lost in Colorado leading up to his election, so it doesn't really matter if it was just Colorado, but they're now worried about this going into other states and being used and having a sort of cascading effect. Eric?
I like Donald Trump. I honestly do. But he reminds me a little bit of a cockroach because no matter how many times you try to kill this thing, it doesn't, keeps coming back. And this is Donald Trump. And I feel this, again, is just going to give him more power. I think it's, he's got plenty of money to fight these things.
He is the herpes of American politics.
He is.
You can't get rid of it.
You can't get rid of it. You can keep it at bay, but it always comes back.
Yeah. What do you like about Donald Trump? I'm actually interested in this. What do you like about? Because it's great when somebody actually goes on record and publicly says their opinion. So, and I know that this is going to be a divisive comment because probably half our audience hate him, half love him. Why do you love him?
He says it how it is. That's what I like about him. It's like Tucker Carlson. It's the same thing. He speaks his mind. He stands for a certain type of person, and obviously there's plenty of those people in the U.S. because they voted him in, and I think they see him as a massive threat. And one of the reasons why they keep indicting him, I'm looking here, 2017, 2018, 2020, and they just keep going, right? So, but I think bad publicity is also good publicity. Like Mark said earlier, his name is in the news. His name is in the media. We're talking about him now. And I think that's just going to give him more and more drive to win this next election. But again, back with Donald Trump, he's a businessman. I'm a businessman. I like the way he does business in certain light. And I think, becoming a billionaire, whether, he inherited the money or not, just keeping it and growing it is a big thing. And I think that he looks at running a country like running a business. And I think the U.S. was in a lot better shape when he was president.
Except for the divisiveness, he created a fairly large rift between certain sects. But as you said, he calls it as it is, and then some. Like there's nothing ever underdone. And so I think if you fact checked half his stuff that he was claiming to, it's like half it's bullshit. But
and I think you're being kind with saying half.
Yeah. But look, at least it's certainly over here we don't have that sort of colour in our politics, which ours is like watching paint dry. So if nothing else, it's good entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, love him or hate him, agree with his politics or not. He's 72, 73 years old. He's a billionaire, and he still has this hunger and this urge to run the country. Now, I would never want that job. I don't know about you guys. Would you want to be president or the top dog in Australia?
No, you can't just have a lazy sleep in, can you?
Right, and he's still getting at him and going for it. And so he's, whether you agree with him, he does want great for America, and he's trying to do what he believes is right to put America back on the track. So you've got to give him credit at least for that.
Yeah, it's one thing I love about America when I'm over there. You see, they are pro-America. Whether you think it's too much as an Australian, I think Australians could be a bit more pro-Australia.
Absolutely.
More flags on the street, more, more allegiance to the flag. I think America really does lead the world in that way.
Yeah.
But for me, I look at Donald and I dislike so many parts of him as a person. But then I look at the role. And you're hiring the guy or whoever for a role, and that role does involve dealing with some pretty hard, dispassionate, people who want what America has, which is power. Mm-hmm. And you can't be a nice guy and sit down with someone like Putin and win. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to have somebody in those roles. Sure, there can be some, but they have to have that spine. I like Vivek. I think Vivek is an amazing young version, much younger than Donald, but has that same spine, that same strength, at least of what I've seen of him. But it's going to be interesting. We're not going to make the whole show about it, but I think we've definitely got to watch what's happening there. It's going to be a very interesting year next year into 2024.
And Vivek, was saying before, has also stood loyal to Donald and pulled his name off the ballot voluntarily, off the Colorado ballot, right?
Yes. So he came out yesterday and said, I am taking myself off the Colorado ballot until Donald is reinstated. It is a very technical argument. I was reading it this morning in the New York Times, the literary and the opinions, and it's very, very nuanced around whether he's actually deemed to be an officer of the United States, which usually refers, and that's the key wording, because it's that refers to people who are being paid or were not elected officials. So people who are elected officials, many believe, are excluded from that language, in which case would be Donald, because he was only ever an elected official. So and there's all these interlocutory sort of languages and so on. So it's going to be a debate for the Supreme Court. It'll be very interesting. With the Supreme Court, remember, Donald's going to have an advantage because he elected.
Can I throw a question to you guys, right? So before Donald Trump got in power the first time, I thought that he would be fantastic because the world was going so far left and so far woke. And it's like, that created Donald, right? That created Donald Trump and gave him power and built his base and got him in. After he's been elected and now where we are with the right, we're starting to move back towards the right, do you think that there is room for a centrist to come in and lead the nation, or are we not quite there yet? Because it seems like you need to be polarizing to win.
Yeah. Well, Biden's hardly polarising, is he?
He is.
He is polarising.
So many people hate him and think he's about to fall off the stage.
Yeah, he's basically the extreme opposite of a picture of health and mental agility. So he's not young, he's not vibrant, he's not like in the middle sort of thing. He's like very old. So in that sense, he's polarising. It's like an old man who can't. I really worry.
I think you're being kind.
Yeah, he's an old man that I really don't think he knows what's going on half the time, which is embarrassing for America as a nation. But to answer your question, Mark, I don't know. In the world we have now, it's all sound bites and attention, and nobody gets sound bites or attention better than Donald Trump.
Biden is someone that I see can be easily controlled.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump's someone that just can't be controlled.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big difference in US politics.
The US definitely needs help. You know, they're in a very, very difficult spot at the moment, and I would love to see somebody who can actually bring both sides together. That's going to take a very special person to be able to do that. More than just like Obama was a great speaker, but did he actually do that much? When Donald came in, I remember sitting there going, holy shit, I didn't know the US president had that much power. He was just doing shit, like, you know, shut down the US-China Postal Service agreement and stuff like that. And I'm like, usually they come in and do nothing for months and months and months and nothing really actually changes. And I remember watching Donald thinking, oh shit, these guys can actually do stuff. They just didn't use their power.
He used the executive orders in the first 100 days, right?
Yeah, he was like, he actually did the stuff he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
I remember when he first ran, I actually thought it was a joke. Like, I didn't even think it was real. Like, I thought this was like a celebrity publicity stunt. But when he actually won, I think it surprised the world. But then I think what he's done when he was president has surprised a lot of people, both in a positive way and a negative way, depending on what light you see him.
Well, he kind of rallied the troops and started the pushback on the whole, you know, China and the tariffs, right? And that's pretty much a universally agreed issue across both parties. So he's done a lot of things that people were too afraid to do.
Yeah, he pushed back, which is good, and I think got to see more of it. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting story as it unfolds.
We'll keep following.
Keep following and watch. The greatest show on earth next year is going to be the US election.
I think there's like a minute chance whoever wins or whoever loses is going to give up that loss too easily. I think there is going to be controversy.
Yeah, if they don't kill Donald, I think he's going to win. Like if they don't like literally cut his head off.
If you had to make a bet, Mark, what would it be?
Right now, Donald Trump.
James?
Trump.
Adam?
Yeah, unless they kill him, I think Donald will win again.
I agree. Donald Trump.
Put it in the comments. What do you guys think?
Yeah, very interesting. A more interesting question, or who will be the candidate on that side if Donald doesn't get elected. And that's going to be, you know, DeSantis or, you know, Vivek or, Nikki Haley, who's going to actually, I don't think DeSantis has a shot. I think it'll be down to Vivek or Nikki, but it'll be very interesting to see.
He's refreshing. We should talk about him in another pod.
Another pod, yeah. Vivek is, some of the last debate was just epic, where he just called out Nikki Haley. Did you guys see this clip? It was
I haven't seen
fascinating. He said, these guys here, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, they've already said they want to send soldiers into eastern Ukraine. So tell us, guys, can you name 3 major states in eastern Ukraine? He says, okay, so you're willing to send our sons and daughters off to the Ukraine to fight and die, and you don't even know where they're going.
Yeah.
And you want to run our country.
I love that.
And they were just like blank, totally like expressionless. And then he told Ron DeSantis to shut the F up and go get a Happy Meal and leave. He's just like, he was just...
That's amazing.
He's got some spunk.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's got backbone. For those who don't know who Vivek is, you know, he's basically a billionaire in his 30s, I think, maybe late 30s. And very, very smart, really an interesting character. So anyway, it's going to be a fun show to watch next year. So, guys, let's jump into this first deal, which is, with you, Mark. This segment with Mark is just to sort of start demonstrating, because we know we have a younger audience, and we know that, that it's a fact. Baby boomers in this country control most of the wealth, and a lot of it initiated from their first home. Right, so they bought a home in Australia and didn't sell it and became millionaires. It's you didn't have to be that smart, you didn't have to do too much, but unfortunately for young people today, that dream is actually mathematically much more difficult to do. It takes 14 years, I think, is the number to save for a deposit now on an average salary versus 4 back when the baby boomers. So this little story here is, Mark, you can maybe give us the overview, but it's basically. Yeah. Mark comes from a land background, so he wanted to give us a demonstration of a deal he's just done. And also, I think, Mark, if you could shed some light before we sort of drill in and start asking you questions on why you think this opportunity still exists in Australia today in certain markets.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if you guys are here, those guys from Queensland will have seen in the news recently that the government is going to introduce a $30,000 home buyers grant. And I tend to have this belief, and it's part of my investing philosophy, is where money flows, capital growth grows, right? Where the government is putting money, you will see capital growth. And putting $30,000 in the form of a home buyer's grant into new builds under $750,000, given that price point, is going to mean that money is going to flow to the greenfields estates, 30 to 40 kilometres from the CBDs, because you really can't get a house for under 750 any closer to the city. So money is going to flow to those areas. There's obviously, infrastructure is obviously a problem in a city. The traffic is getting worse and worse. And so there is some benefit to pushing people out a little bit further as well. And the other thing, with Queensland, they are probably pushing for migration as well, right? You've got the Olympics coming in what is it? 10 years from now, 2032, right? And so they're probably pushing for some migration. It's a perfect marketing campaign, the Olympics. And these are the areas where there's still room to house people as well. So I think there's a lot of infrastructure and effort that's going to go into building these growth areas. And we've seen that in Melbourne. So being from Melbourne, back in 2007, 2008, a multi-million-dollar land boom, multi-billion-dollar land boom basically occurred, where I think land prices probably tripled from 2008 to now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the great thing about land, if you're sitting there wondering, okay, Mark, how is this helpful to young people? This strategy Mark's going to show you right now is super simple, but involves just the land. So it essentially cuts in half, or probably half, the cost of getting into the real estate market if you are younger and want exposure but don't have enough capital to go all the way in. So can you just maybe talk us through this deal in Roxbury Park? Yeah,
so one of the things that obviously made it so easy for me to sell a lot of land is I always tried to be the first investor in the estate that I purchased in. So one thing that I love, if you can get into stage 1 of a new land estate, you're always going to do very, very well, because the developers have a feasibility model that they've built when they purchase the site that means that they have to reach growth every stage release, right? So if you can get in stage 1, you're obviously going to get in at the cheapest land prices. So in a bunch of estates that I worked at, I tried to buy the first blocks. This block that I'm going to talk about today is in Roxburgh Park. It's close to if anyone knows Melbourne, it's next to Greenvale, very close to the airport. It's about 32 kilometres from the CBD, and it's in Satterley Estate, which is one of the largest private land developers in the country. And I always like, if possible, to look in the estates that are run by the larger developers, because they generally have the bigger estates and they're generally putting more infrastructure, better parks into their estates, which, you know, makes a difference when you're going to resell. So I purchased this block back in 2016. Maybe we could throw the details up on the screen.
Throw some images up, Greg, just to show what we're talking about here, so you can get a visual. And that's something we're going to try and do regularly, guys, so you can actually wrap your eyeballs around seeing it.
Yep. So you can see there where it is. Purchased it in 2016 for $278,000. At the time, I got a 70% loan, so that was $194,600, and I put up the other $83,400 out of my pocket. So just keep in mind that the cash invested in the deal was $83,400, and I'm not sure if I included stamp duty in that, or you've got to add stamp duty, but if someone's quick on math, you could probably work that out. This block was interesting because I was able to lease this block back to the developer, and they used it as a car park for their sales office. So not every single block of land that you're going to buy is going to be able to be leased back to the developer, but if you can lease it back, it can be quite lucrative, because they basically, over a 5-year period, paid me $16,680 plus GST. So that worked out what is it?
So how long did you lease it?
83,000.
83. Okay, it was 5 years. Yeah, 83,000. 83,400, 5 years. I think that's correct. Anyway, 16,680 times 5, basically. And
so
the interest.
You leased it for 16,680 as a car park per year.
Yep.
For 5 years.
Yes.
Which gave you back $83,000 in lease payments.
Yes.
And your interest payments over the term.
My interest payments over the term were about it was less than this, because interest rates were lower during this time, but I'm basing it on basically 5%, which is fairly reasonable as an average rate, and it was around about $9,730 a year in interest repayments.
Okay, and when did you sell it?
We just sold it last Friday. Sold it for $700,000. So in pure capital growth terms, that's 151% return, so 278 to 700. And on a cash-on-cash basis, based on the roughly $83,000 that I invested, it's a 400% return.
400% return just on buying the land. How does that look if you didn't have it leased back in, if you were just paying the interest on the land over that time?
Yeah, so basically you would have to, I don't have the percentage numbers, you'd basically have to take the 80 odd thousand in lease payments that I received off.
Yep.
And
so your total annual interest was, the total interest you paid in the 8 years was $78,000, right?
Yeah.
So $78,000. So really, if you add the $78,000 plus the purchase price of, what was it? $278. $356, so you sold it for $700.
Yep.
So you still doubled your money in that time, which is phenomenal, and that's just owning land.
Just owning land,
yeah, which is really interesting. So for young people watching this, you might be able to do this with a couple of people and get into owning a block of land like that. You do have to be able to pay the interest if you can't lease it back.
Exactly.
But split between 2 or 3 people, it's a great way to get exposure to the real estate market. You could, of course, then build on it if your financial circumstances change.
Yep.
There's lots of things you can do with it, but you have exposure to the market. Very clever, interesting little strategy for people just to get started.
Yeah, and I think people are doing this on a large scale. There's so many, even guys at your Wealth Builders event who are getting together, putting together syndications and buying farms and larger parcels of land.
Yep.
And I just think this is a great strategy for people to do, general population to be able to do. Get together with your brother, get together with your sister, your best mate, buy a block of land, I mean, you know, $10,000 a year in repayments is $5,000 each.
Yes.
It's affordable, right?
$5,000 each over 8 years
Yep.
is like 40 grand over 8 years. But when you sell it, you're basically getting a massive return.
And you know, if you've got to invest in the right places as well. If you had invested in Perth during the mining boom, you would have struggled to get that return over the next 8 to 10 years. But if someone has sold a lot of land, I think the opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be in Queensland. Like I said, the Olympics. If you go back and have a look at what that done in New South Wales, massive. You've got the first home buyers grant, which is going to be a huge stimulus for these greenfields estates. Another massive opportunity, and you've got the land available and the developers that need to grow that rate of return over the life of that project.
Plus, you've got affordability out here as well. Yeah. I mean, you look at Melbourne land prices. We used to develop a whole bunch of land out near the other places you're about to mention, and yeah, I mean, back then we were talking about blocks before, 120, 140 grand for a block. They've doubled out there for sure, but they're still a third of what Melbourne is right now. So. That affordability piece is definitely here in southeast Queensland.
It's interesting, right? Like, it's the same old story. I remember in the Uber on the way here, I was talking to a guy who had some land in Bendigo and sold it, and he sold it, the whole parcel of land, for 12 blocks, 400,000, and now they're worth 465,000 a block or something.
Wow!
And he sold it 10 years ago. And I said, why don't you buy some land in Queensland now? He's like, oh, it's too expensive. The same story always repeats. People think they've missed the boat.
Yes.
But it's never the case. So I think you posted something on Instagram about that couple who walked out of the land estate back in the 50s and did you buy a block, sir? Oh, no, they're too expensive. And then you ask this other guy, seasoned businessman, did you buy a block, sir? Absolutely. Land always goes up.
Yes.
And that's...
And those blocks were like $2,500, $3,000 a block in Canberra. In 1968, that was. And the lady said who missed out, and then you've got to pay $100 a year just to own it in tax. And everyone, all the young people watching it would be just going, oh my God, if that was my parents, I would have shot them.
Similarly, there's another article. I used to live in Bondi for a while, and a person, obviously through the boom, renovators' delights and whatnot, and it made headline news. It was a piece of news, like back in the day, they used to put newspaper on the carpet quite a lot. And it was the same headline, 1963, housing affordability, how are the young people going to buy a home? And you're talking, 60 years later.
And land shortages were the thing.
And 60 years later, it's the same headline wheel out every time the boom goes round. So, when's the best time to buy a property? Yesterday.
Yeah. What's that saying? That there's two certainties in life, death, taxes. The third one is that human nature doesn't change, right? Same stories, different time.
Yeah. Mark, you mentioned some resources before we rolled tape.
Yeah.
Where can people look at where these lands are? Yeah,
so there's actually an amazing website called OpenLot. So it's www.openlot.com.au, and basically that has all of the land estates in Melbourne in kind of like a database format. It's like the realestate.com of land estates, and so you've basically got a resource there that you can search all the different land estates all over Australia and see what's up.
I mean, I think one of the best things you can do if you're watching this, you think about buying real estate, if you want to build your belief, if you're nervous about, like I was speaking to a client, Eric and I had him here last week, and he has quite a lot of money sitting there in the bank account, and he's just afraid to invest it. And I'm like, dude, you need to invest that money. You have so much money there that you actually could stop working and just be an investor. But, there's nerves about investing. And I think if you're watching this, when you go back and you just look at numbers as far back as you can, what stuff was bought for and what stuff was sold for, bought for, sold for, bought for, sold for, in this country, you will go, what the hell am I doing sitting on the sidelines and not... And this is a unique benefit of living in this beautiful country, is that so many people want to come here and will continue to come here, that I'm personally bullish about it. I'm not giving financial advice, of course. I'm just saying it just builds your belief by looking at the data.
But also with that, just on that about the headlines, it's usually the mainstream media that wheel out all the negative headlines, which grab, it's like clickbait. And people get hoodwinked by the whole thing. And while the ride's happening, they're too busy shitting themselves on the sidelines. And once it's happened, they go, oh my God, land's away. But now the pullback happens. So it's like, you've got to really take the goggles off.
Yeah, when I travel, I'm still blown away at how good value it is here in Australia. Though it's Australia's a bubble, I'm like, when I go back to LA now and I look at the rental market, for example, I mean, this sounds super, super snooty, but I couldn't live in a house for less than maybe 15, 20 grand US a month. That's just what it costs in Los Angeles for a proper, livable house for a middle-aged guy. It's super expensive there compared to here, and lots of places around the world. You're a data man. You love it, Eric.
I got a couple questions.
Yeah, go.
One is, why did you purchase that particular lot? Did you know that you were going to lease it back as a car park already, or was that a coincidence?
That one I did.
Okay.
That one I did. But over the course of me selling land for I think it was nearly 10 years on and off for a couple of stints,
Yeah.
I bought blocks in every single estate that I worked in, and I even bought blocks in neighbouring estates that weren't car park lease blocks.
Another question.
Yep.
What do you look for, right? So if I'm a person and I'm on OpenLot and I'm looking at different blocks of
Yeah.
land, and you get some that are a little bit cheaper than others.
Yeah.
What do you actually look for when you're looking at these blocks of lands in these estates? Because you could pick 100 lots,
Yeah.
right? Why pick the one at the end? Why pick the one in the middle?
It's a great question. So there's two lenses that I apply to it. The first lens is, if I was going to buy and build my dream home in this estate, is this the kind of position that I would want to choose over the other lots in the release? Is this the one that has the park frontage or the water view or the
North facing.
right? It has the good backyard orientation. So that's the first lens. The second lens, which I think is an underappreciated one, is a lot of the developers, they price in frontage width. So a 10.5 will have a certain price, a 12.5 metre frontage, a 14 will have a certain price. If a block is a little bit irregular, so has a funny shape or goes bigger at the back, I love the ones that go bigger at the back because everyone loves a big backyard. And if you look at that frontage and it says 12 metres at the front, but when you actually set it back 4 metres where the house needs to go, it opens up to 16 metres. That's effectively a 16 metre block. But the developer most times prices it as a 12.5 metre block. Mm-hmm. And so you've got all this extra yard space in the back, you've got the frontage that allows a bigger house, and you're paying a cheaper price per square metre. So I look for those ones.
I look for a big booty block.
Yeah,
big booty block.
Good strategy. And I have one more question. Because you've held it for longer than a year, is land the same as a house on land, as an asset? When you hold it for longer than a year, you get the 50% reduction in capital gains tax?
Absolutely. So it's you've got to hold it for more than 12 months from the date of signing to the date of sale. And you get the same. Land is the same.
So I just worked out, you've made about $52,750 a year over the 8 years, roughly, in capital growth.
Yep.
That now you're only paying tax on 50% of that.
Absolutely.
Whereas there's people out there right now, right, that are working 38 hours a week to earn the same amount of money, and they're paying tax on the whole thing.
Exactly. And to that point, I'm nearly 40 years old and only now just buying my first family home. So from the age of 24 when I got into land to now, I've been putting all the money that I've been investing in my job into land because of that point. My income can never grow as fast as property prices in Australia.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I want to talk about that other deal that you did recently, not today, but another pod. But for those of you listening, this is what Mark's specialty has been, is buying land, selling land, and he's just bought a property down in the beach suburbs of Melbourne that we're going to dive into, that has subdivision and all sorts of opportunities around that, which is going to be fascinating to dive into. Any other questions for Mark before we move on? No.
What are you doing with the money?
I think we're about to start looking for some deals up here on the coast, hey?
Yeah, exactly.
Good on you.
Maybe do something like what we're about to show you guys with Eric's last project. Well, not last, but he's got so much going on. But we're going to just do a simple one today with Eric. But let's move on now to James. So again, guys, drop in the comments if you have questions for Mark. Drop them in the comments. Let us know if that kind of content is helpful for you. Yeah. Because so many people don't think about just buying land as an asset. It's always house and land and so on. So it's an interesting strategy. And one certainly worth looking into. So moving on to James. James acquires companies effectively, guys. So he looks for what he calls fax machine companies, meaning companies that are there's a huge boom coming, and that is baby boomers retiring. And they've built these businesses over their lifetime. Their kids don't want the businesses because they have been the beneficiaries of generally a successful small business that has probably funded them through a good level of education, perhaps a higher level of education the parents had. They're now doctors or pursuing their own dreams and whatever. They don't want to go and run the old man's dusty warehouse-based business. And so we've got, probably certainly billions of dollars worth of value just in this country that is going to be sold or just shut down. And James and his business partner are in that space of looking for companies where they've got a vendor that wants to get out, that has not been brought into the 21st century, and apply a combination of James's skills, which is sales, online marketing, sales, and his business partner skills, which is the back end and the operational side of the business. Together, they make a really great pairing. And they recently bought a healthcare business, I think it'd be a broad description of it, in Brisbane. Basically it was a 17-year-old business that sells high-ticket healthcare products and services to healthcare professionals and also directly to end consumers. So, James, just give us sort of the high-level view of in your own words, why are you doing what you do today? Was that a good description, or how would you comment on it?
100%. And just as a fun fact, as these boomers start to retire, only 20% of businesses that are listed for sale actually sell. The other 80%, they throw the keys back and walk away. That's of listed businesses, the ones we actually know about. So there's a lot of businesses we don't know about because they never make it to market.
You guys actually have a process of actually contacting unlit businesses.
That's one of the other strengths is, and again, that's probably, depending on everyone's
discussion for another day.
That's a whole probably half an hour in itself, how to locate said businesses. We only buy off market, never through a broker, and to do that, there's a whole system around that, from curating databases, outreach, negotiation, the whole shebang. So that's a pretty chewy conversation in itself. So, but just from a high level, as you said, it's not a case of Eric and I were talking off camera before about I'm just going to go and buy a business. I think you need to have a bit more of an educated and certainly an objective. And our objective was to go buy a business, and I'll talk about the deal criteria in a minute. Build a template or a system, a repeatable cookie cutter model, if you will. Build a proven track record of results so we can get funding to scale. Because we always want to use other people's money, not our own. The whole goal here is to try and do this with little to no money out of pocket. And then once we've got that model sorted out, is form a platform or a holding company, and then go around, once we've got these proven results, whether we're funded or bootstrapped ourselves, is acquire similar business in the same sector. Not the same business. I mean, why have potentially, but more so similar business in the same healthcare sector. That's what they generally call a roll-up. And then effectively what that does is we're arbitraging the multiples. So example, if we're buying companies that might trade do $500,000 EBITDA, they might trade at 3 times multiples if they're under management. But the minute you hit around 2 million EBITDA, that multiple goes anywhere from 7 to 10 north of.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just by having a bigger business,
grouped
together,
grouped income,
diversified.
Yep, your multiples can double or triple.
So for those who are new to this, EBITDA, what is EBITDA?
Essentially, it's a fancy word for profit before
interest and tax.
Because if someone goes and takes out, buys my company for argument's sake, and I've got it loaded with debt, when they buy it, they might have zero debt. So they look at that earning before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. So that's, if you need to learn more about that, Google's your friend. Just Google it, because it's pretty complex to try and explain without a whiteboard.
Is that from a less risk perspective? Is that why the multiple increases?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what the ultimate buyer, when I look at this sector, is like, what's the exit strategy? Where do I start and where's the end? And where do I get out? Is there a buyer there? And buyers, predominantly private equity, want to de-risk. And so if you've got 4 or 5 of these companies, as I said before, similar businesses, potentially not the same, then if one leg falls off, you've got 4 to stand on. They're de-risking their investment, because their whole goal is to take what you've done and wrap it up into a much larger entity, or IPO.
Because that's one of their concerns, that when they purchase the business, that the sales then drop off because the incumbent are gone.
Exactly. So you've got like we look for in any business, what's your customer concentration? If you've got a business and it's got one main customer that does 80% of the revenue, well, I'm not interested at all. Like your max customer concentration would be 20%. So if you lose that one customer, you've still got 80% of your revenue. And so again, de-risk it, adds a lot more sizzle for their appetite to purchase. So
just keeping that mic in mind. We're just getting used to these mics, so make sure you just twist it around when you're talking to Mark. And so that's interesting, James, on that, the private equity guys. It seems to me, in my experience, that it's actually easier to sell to a private equity, and because there's less of these businesses and loads of money out there looking for those businesses that are slightly bigger.
Yeah, because it takes away, what they're looking for is a machine or something that operates under management. They're not looking to get in there and do the grind, which we'll talk about in a moment with such as a turnaround. But they're looking for those businesses they can then apply their wares to it, because private equity don't just bring in the cash. They bring in their hit squad of marketing specialists, ops specialists that's probably out of our league.
And they're looking to IPO it or do something else.
Yeah, or roll it up into one of their other funds potentially, which then adds income to their pooled income, which adds a multiple to their net worth as well. So everyone's just playing the multiple game.
Yeah, or sell it to a listed company.
And it's when you've got a company that's north of $1 million or $2 million, it's established, it's gone past product market fit if you're in the new age businesses. So they look at them, and that just seems to be where the yardstick is in Australia and the US as well. Starting to creep down a little bit, but look, they're not interested in buying companies that do $500,000 profit. And
is healthcare part of your thinking with healthcare for the same reason Mark was talking about, where money flows, growth goes?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's where money's going, right?
Yeah, 100%. So that's the overall objective, and just to finish off there, the goal here is for us isn't to act, to flip it and sell it, but it's to have the option to, should we choose to get tapped on the shoulder at a number that's too good to pass up. So the goal there, so that's the overall objective. But we talk about deal criteria, and you touched on government funding, and that's one of the overlays I think I mentioned in the very first pod about what we're looking for is painkiller, not a vitamin, solves a real world problem. Recession resistant strong was one of the strong things for me. I'm not into cyclical businesses now as I get a bit older, or startups and shiny object stuff. But you've got to be on trend, strong demand, and a large or increasing TAM, which means total addressable market. I want to see the market increasing, not decreasing. That's one of so in other words, there's plenty of blue ocean in front of it. Should you be able to outmarket the competitors? So,
I think that's important. Alex Hormozy talks about that, and if you're going into business and you're going into a shrinking market, it's like paddling upstream. You've got to paddle like crazy just to stay in the same spot.
Totally. And so and not cyclical, non-seasonal either. So I don't want to be having our getting a business under stress, maybe if it's a summer product or a winter product or vice versa. We want consistent, steady income year in, year out. All year round, I should say, sorry. So that's sort of the initial lens I put over it. And then when we went, okay, let's get then specific, I want to look at a business that has multiple selling opportunities. So business to business. Hence why we sell up here to healthcare professionals. That's a large part of the business. It's not just B2C. So we want that B2B, B2C opportunity. We want a moat, and that comes in the form of exclusivity. But also a moat can be what you bring to the table as far as marketing.
What do you mean exclusivity?
So if we have products that, when I say exclusive rights to sell a specific line of products in Australia, so no one else can sell against us. Mm-hmm. So we're not competing against the same guy selling the same pen in 2 doors down. It becomes a price war, and so we're not interested in having a price war. So there's that, and also a highly fragmented market where you haven't got one predominantly dominant player in the space that you're just not going to be able to penetrate their moat by being the largest player. That's a moat as well. So, and obviously that marketing and sales, what can we bring to the table? What's the arbitrage there? And we talked to Semi about a fax machine operated business when we were looking at these businesses, had a good deep dive into a lot of the competition. How are they running their ads? What were they running them to? And got a really good feel for it. And went, I think we can certainly win here just by playing the marketing game alone.
So Greg, maybe just while we process this, can you just throw some images up of this business up in Brisbane? We've left it nondescript because we want to maintain, your privacy because you're still in that turnaround phase and it's going very well. But just throw it up so people can see it and have a look at it. Yeah. Maybe just walk us through, what, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's one last part I left off that for anyone I think is probably the most valuable piece out of that objective and the criteria is we want a motivated seller. I want deals. I don't want to pay full tilt for anything. And I'm going to run through just some quick headline numbers. Eric, I'm sure you'll dig into those as well. So, so we could probably go to that deal. If you
I think it's good because I want people to see the images so they can say, okay, this is a warehouse-based business. I'd like to get a sense of like what was the vibe when you took it over? How were they marketing their products then? And what was the energy like? And what have you done culturally and tactically to turn it around? And how's it going?
Yeah, sure. I think a bit of context around the deal itself. As I said, we want a motivated seller, and so the deal essentially we get 3 years past financials. Sort of gives you like a laser beam into what happened. It's the story. It's the storybook of the company, the business was doing north of $6 million, and it was on a downward spiral. Hence the turnaround to about 1.8 million for an EBITDA of about 250 or 280. But within that, there was we had to re-engineer the financials to work out what was real and what wasn't, and was it actually running at a profit or not, and how long this thing was going to take to blow up, if it was going to, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So. So we essentially bought the business. It should have been trading on a multiple of 3 at a 250 profit. You're looking at 750, 800 for the business. Plus, there's about 680 grand's worth of stock at cost. Van, a forklift, unencumbered, about 100 grand's worth of machinery there. All the FF&E, like racking space, office equipment, the whole shebang, and the team. And it was a walk-in, walk-out deal. And we paid 250 grand. So walk-in, walk-out means basically where you've got 2 weeks of our attention and you're on your own. So we had a bet, and that's what I'm going to get to in the moment. This wasn't a normal deal where you do perform, 5 months of due diligence and to work out whether it was going to be a buy or not. We took a bet that we looked at the stock. That was the main lure. We wanted to get into this space. The stock is there, and it depleted over time. So I wanted to close this deal as fast as I possibly could. We were basically buying the stock.
Because the quicker you close, the more stock is in the warehouse.
100%. So I wanted to force this deal. We did it through Christmas, and it was. Don't recommend trying to get lawyers and accountants all working out of the same hymn book over Christmas. But we did. We got there in the end, and that negotiation, that sort of stuff, is a conversation for another time as well, because that was a very interesting shit show.
Why were they selling? Like, what was it that? Like, are they older people? Why was their motivation?
That's that motivated seller. They'd made their money out of the business. They'd got a very healthy lifestyle out of it. Kids all out of it, as you said, went to private school. They've got multiple properties and holidayed like the best of them. He dropped out of a heart attack in 2019, and they bounced him back to life. And the wife said, enough. He's an ex-church minister, funnily enough, and I don't think I'll ever trust another one. Fuck me, the stories I've got about that guy, mate. Yeah, anyway. So over that period, then COVID hit, and obviously that took an impact as well for them, and they were fire selling all the stock. And that's when I talk about that. Was it really is it a true 250 EBITDA or not? We had to financially re-engineer the books to work out, okay, are we going to make the right bet here? And if we can, and this is where the bet.
What does financially re-engineer? Like, what are you actually doing? Are you going through the P&L each month and you're looking at line items and then one by one saying, hey, it says this. Yep. What actually is that? And getting down to the granular expenses and income of the business. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and also what they call add back. So if they've pulled out, 15 grand for childcare, which they did. They ran a creche out of the back of the, just wrote up 15 grand. Well, that's an add back. In other words, that's income, an expense that wouldn't affect us.
So it's an expense that was going through their books, but going forward would not actually be there. So that's therefore it would actually normally be profit. And this happens a lot in business.
Totally.
There's expenses like travel and different things that get put through businesses.
So they basically, like any small business, they lived out of it and they deducted everything they possibly could. So the books looked horrible. So we got an ex-Big Four, I think it's PwC, M&A accountant, due diligence accountant to come in and we pulled those. It cost us a few bob.
How much is a few bob?
Mate, we...
I really want to know, because people listening to this really want to get their hands around it. It's brand new.
How we structured it was a bit different. We found a guy and only asked him to do minimal work. We didn't do a full financial DD, but if you're going to do a full financial DD on a business that you've got time to do the DD on, you'd be looking at circa, if you're going to do it properly, 20 grand. So you want to make sure that the business is worth buying, and you've done your research on all the other areas that you can do the DD on yourself before you go and engage. So it cost us about $5-6 grand. It might be 7. I can't remember now. But we only wanted to do specific pieces that we couldn't unpick ourselves because we had a fairly good idea of what it looked like regardless. And remembering the biggest lure here was the stock. We weren't actually buying the revenue.
How much stock did they say was there?
There was about 800 grand when we started negotiation.
So 800 grams worth of stock, 100 grand worth of
vans and forklifts.
And you bought this thing for 250.
Yeah, plus it was pulling 250.
Plus it was pulling 250.
I was wondering if I heard that right. I was going to ask you.
So if you
I'm just repeating that back. If you're wondering, guys, about how to create alpha in business, alpha returns, this what you're learning right now is gold.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's the thing. We'll talk about property versus business. Why I'm interested in doing this is because, if buy something for 250 grand and in 12 months' time have a multi-million-dollar asset on your hands, and we put 125 plus change for some operating expenses in there. I don't know any property that can do that.
Nothing.
Nothing even close. So, so the bet was, can we outmarket and outsell the current owner? And, again, looking at the competition, looking at their current ads, looking at how they're running the business, I thought that was a pretty sure bet for us. And the hedge was this: if we couldn't outsell them and outmarket them, I had 3 months of runway to do it because I had 800 grand worth of 680 at settlement plus 100 grand worth of vans and whatnot. If we couldn't, I'd fire sell the stock at cost online, which I know they were doing because they'll fire sell it to start with, and we'd pull in 600 or 700 grand. It might cost me 150 grand to do it, and we'd walk away with 250 grand profit for the exercise. So it was a hedge there. I wanted to de-risk this deal, and if we did work it out, we'll keep it and get busy, and this is a turnaround. There's you roll the sleeves up and know that it's an old business running on a fax machine. We're going to do some tech upgrades. We're going to do a shit ton of marketing upgrades. We're going to put sales teams in. We're going to rebuild websites, the whole shebang. This business, every single nut and bolt, if you're metaphorically speaking, was pulled out, either polished and put back or thrown away, and we threw most of it away. So it's a full rebuild. It's like a 17-year-old startup. With exclusivities and a bunch of stock. So that was where
this did have exclusivities on certain products.
Yeah, you bet.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
And that's so hard to find, and it's really hard to do it from a startup. I was really blessed with dry flush toilets to get exclusivity from day one, but generally speaking, for the average punter, the only way to get that is by buying a lot of stock of somebody. Because manufacturers don't want to give exclusivity to an unknown quantity. So the fact that you pick that up through the acquisition alone, just the rights are worth money.
And a couple of cheeks, like the old past, he was a cheeky bugger. What he couldn't get exclusive on for some lines of products, he went and registered the trademark of that name in Australia. So anyone who goes to sell it, he goes, stop selling. So he picked up what's a trademark these days? It's about $1,000, I think, to lodge a trademark.
It was savvy in some ways.
Oh, you bet he was. Yeah.
Cagey.
Yeah, I can only imagine the amount of money he ripped out with his handing that plate around at church on a Sunday.
So it goes to show how important then timing is and finding that motivated seller, right? Like
totally.
It seems like...
That's highlighted in ink. It is. I'm not interested in paying full tilt for a deal. It's like you want to pay below or...
and that comes down to motivation, right? So the guy's just had enough. He's gone through a major life change with the heart attack. Yep. And once the wife said, "Dude,
you've got 6 grandchildren, and they want Poppy to be around."
Yeah. So get out. What are we doing this for?
Yeah.
So just give us stepping away for a minute from the analytics, just in real world. What was it like when you turned up there on day one?
Yeah.
These 2 new guys come in.
Yeah, and it was one of those deals where they were fairly cagey about us meeting the staff because it was such a deal, right? If they were going to ask full market value, it'd be a proper due diligence process. We'd meet the staff and go, and it'd be announced, and it'd be ongoing.
Did the staff know it was for sale?
Not at all.
Because that's what happened with my animation company. I did not want anybody looking there unless the money was pretty much in escrow.
Yeah, mate, it was in escrow, and it was a walk-in, walkout. So the day we walked in, they walked out, and it was like, "Hi, welcome, meet the new boss." Yeah. And we're like, "Cool." And this could go south real fast.
Because neither of you live in Brisbane, right? So the business is in Brisbane, your partner's in the sunny coast, and you're on the Gold Coast. So you guys are tag teaming.
You bet.
Going up there every day for the last...
Yeah, I don't go up there much anymore, once every 6 or 8 weeks, I suppose, because what I do is pretty much work from home and all online, and my sales team are all online as well, and remote. But
So you've walked in there, the other 2 new guys.
Yep.
What happened?
I was like, "Hi, I'm James. Here's some donuts. We're nice guys. we love you already. We don't even know you." So, and they were like, "Oh, okay." We didn't really see this coming, And that was that. We just got to work and started pulling shit apart. And
did you fire anybody?
No, that was part of the deal. Is we took all staff and their adjustment for entitlements.
So you didn't pay anybody, you didn't fire anybody. You then went into relationship building mode.
Yep.
And then what sorts of things were you doing? Like in a practical sense, were you changing the marketing, cleaning the warehouse out?
No, I was straight into the ad accounts. Straight in there.
In the ad accounts. What sort of advertising were they doing?
Oh, just running Google ads.
That's it.
And poorly. Like it was, you can tell, like Facebook ad library, you can see what the competitors' ads are doing. You can see what the competitors on Google are doing now as well. So we just went, okay, well, there's a dial we can twist straight away, adjust pricing, adjust ad spend, adjust targeting, all that sort of good stuff like that. So in the first week, we completely...
So you went into the digital marketing side. You looked at what they were marketing, how much they were marketing it for, overhauled the creative.
Yeah, I just wanted to see the cash register ringing in a lot faster, a lot harder, because remember that stock's burning.
And how quickly did you see a turnaround?
Yeah, like for example, month one when we went in there, it was a shocking month. I think it was about 87 grand they did in sales, down from doing 6 mil a year, and spun that around and pretty much doubled that. It was about 160 first month, and then it went from north from there. On it went. Yeah. Until we hit a ceiling, and all these businesses. As you know, with Dry Flush, they're regulated by, and Eric as well, regulated by inventory. How much stock have you got on hand? And until we've had a proven business model, and we had stock to burn, to test our theory. I wasn't interested in loading up on any more stock for a business that we're not 100% clear on. Remember that hedge, if it's not going to work in 3 months, I want out. And it wasn't until after that 3 month period, we're like, all right, cool.
Was there any other low-hanging fruit aside from the digital marketing where you could create instant profits, like letting go of infrastructure or selling off assets that weren't being used, doing a mini sort of...
There wasn't there wasn't really a great deal of that, or staff letting either. No. So it was straight into marketing, but the business, the turnaround, it came from, when we looked at the margins and the pricing and margin matrix, it was like, all right, this thing is just running just nose above water at its current pricing. So, with e-com, there's only so much price elasticity in that you can flex. We pushed that and went, okay, we're not going to make this work. How do they used to do things in the old days, way back when, before digital was around, and it was with the sales team. And when the minute you put a sales team on, so from losing money to a green light was the whole shit. We need to put some sales, change from an e-com model into a lead gen model, and with a compelling offer. And put a sales team on, and with that you can automatically increase price. So we went selling products that were selling for $2,000 online to $8.5 grand. So
really,
yeah.
Holy smokes.
And no dent in demand at all. So, and that's the power when you got when you get away from the e-com model. Even if you like Amazon, for example, it's a price war. Yes. I don't care what anyone says. It's a price war, and then you're dead. E-com online, if you're selling similar or same products and you're relying on an e-com model, it's a price war. People just they're buying the dollar, and they go, yeah, sure, it's got a few extra reviews than this one and whatever it'll do. But when you put a sales model together, you can
it's like selling those massage chairs or those beds and things that turn up at trade shows. Like I bought a bed at a caravan show for like $7,000. I got sucked into this thing,
but $800 in Alibaba.
Yeah, exactly. But it's because it was a salesperson and a presentation and a limited time and all the shit that salespeople do.
Exactly. So we went that model and we just put salespeople on at the same price that we're selling online to see whether we could get the phone sales guys and get that model worked out, which I'd fairly strong bias towards that we could do that, and we did, and then we started creeping the price up, cut e-com, then went full lead gen.
So when you say full lead gen versus e-com, just for people who are not familiar, you're talking about e-com is you see an ad, you click the ad, it goes to the product page on your website with a price.
Yeah, and
that's your funnel. And you put your credit card in, you don't talk to anyone, you buy it.
Yep.
You're saying now you run an ad that goes, just talk us through that funnel, the sales model funnel.
In anything with sales, you need to have some background information. And being in the healthcare and medical space, I thought logically, when you go to a doctor, what does the doctor do when you first sit down? They ask you what the symptoms are. So I went, all right, this is cool. So I worked out from the sales guys, what are the symptoms? What are these people suffering from? And put that into a logical 10-step questionnaire online. They go through that, and then with a heavily incentivized offer to complete the assessment. So I could find out what was going on, what these people wanted. And so
can you give me an example? So let's say with my toilets.
yeah,
So an incentivised offer, what do you mean? To complete the survey, if you complete this 10-question survey, you'll get something at the end.
maybe incentivise like a free go in the draw to win a holiday, or that's
Okay,
an example, whatever. Or or become you might be an assessment to say an assessment to see whether a dry flush toilet actually suits your situation. Do you have a caravan? Do you have a boat? Do you have
a free 6-page report of the top toilets in Australia and which one would be right for you.
Yeah, totally. And then off the back of that, when it comes through that once they've completed that assessment, they would then have the opportunity to book a call with a consultant to then talk about their assessment results. And the whole raft of stuff which you can really incentivise the back end of it.
So your ad goes, they see a Google ad or a Facebook ad, it goes to a survey,
a landing page
for a survey. Hey, you're interested in this product, complete these 10 steps.
Or you're not sure what is this right for me or not.
Yeah, it could be like if you are selling a hearing aid device, like those audio people in the shopping centres.
Yep.
Fill out this survey, tell us about, do these tests, and at the end we'll tell you which hearing aid's right for you. And of course, amazing, the one they sell is the one that's right for you, but it's the same idea, right?
Think of it like a finance application. When you're online and you've got all these new finance businesses out there, they go through what's your name, what's your age, what's your income, what's your superannuation, have you got any other debt? They do a quick fact find on you to work out whether you actually qualify. And at the end of that survey, when you're going through, it's like, oh, your application's been received for qualification and approval. Please book a call, and one of our guys will approve your loan for you. Think about that model, and then incentivise the hell out of it at the front, at the middle, and at the call.
And so what you're getting then is, on the flip side, you've got a salesperson with all this information.
You bet.
About this customer.
Yep.
And it's a very consultative sale.
100%. So they go through about a 10-question questionnaire put together, and there's about 80% of the questions that any salesperson worth their salt would ask on a call to start with. So you've got the information right there.
You've systemised it, so you take out that
including budget. How much money have you got to spend? So up front.
So you can prioritise which are the most important calls to make first.
They're all important. Yeah. They all get it. and that's why. And that's when you can to make sure they're all important is to finish that arc and go, okay, well, great, you've got the lead, you've got a sales guy, but how can you make it affordable for everyone? And that's a whole nother conversation as well.
But you're getting this funnel is actually performing really well, right, in terms of lead gen cost.
Yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah.
Like what's an appointment costing you?
Depending on if it's a lead to an appointment, it's about 1 in 3 to book. So it's $3.50 for a lead, depending on how I'm running the funnel. About $7.50 to $10 for a booked call, which is
my God,
which
so
is
cheap
crazy.
On an $8,000 product.
Yeah, they're about to go north as well.
Yeah, and obviously there's a shit ton of margin.
Yeah,
based
well,
on what you told us.
That's the thing is we're working at the financials, where we started, where we are, and where we want to hit. And we're climbing that margin ladder up.
And you've got a distributed sales team, so these people are working at home with a digital calendar, like a Calendly or a TidyCal or whatever, and the appointments are just dropping into their calendar.
Correct.
And they're on a commission.
Yep, and got some pretty sharp people we're about to go on and as I said before, one of the objectives was to get some results to get funded, and now that's where we're at.
James, what's your cost of sale, like including the sales team, etc.?
Well,
I guess what I'm trying to understand is roughly what price does your item need to be for this model to kind of work?
Yeah, I put the COGS at 40% in commission, so and then I adjust the price accordingly. So that's the target.
Right. So there's no, like for example, if you're selling on Shopify, you need to have a cart value of about $90 in order to break even on a sale. Like, is there a break even point in dollar terms? Like you had a $7 cost per appointment?
That's where they were when we took the business over. They were at break even. So we had a lot of room to move up. But you can't do it with an e-com model because it's price.
So you need those higher ticket items.
But say you had an e-com business that was selling a higher ticket item, like $15,000 worth of products.
You don't. That's the thing. There's not many businesses out there that will sell 15, but from click to credit card, $15,000. So it's difficult. That's where the sales team comes into it, and you can factor in a salesperson's wage. If you factor in the way I did my comp plan for the sales team, it works out about if they sell $200,000 a month, they make $200,000 a year. So it's about 10% is the cost to sell it effectively without the cost of goods. So the CAC, if you will. Yeah, I'll run it through you after here. I'll show you what it looks like.
I've got so many questions for you.
Yeah. So, but no, it's working well.
And so, yeah, so you basically focused, changed from an e-com model to a lead gen model. And you've recently got some inventory finance, I think, coming in place as well.
Yeah, and that's the main constraint with these businesses is funding. As I said, no money out of pocket. So we had a call yesterday and got the informal green light for half a brick. So
with NAB, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what inventory finance is, NAB are really good at this, and I've put a few of our clients into the people there in the NAB private, and basically they give you inventory financing. So when you're ordering stock from, let's say, China or wherever your stuff's coming from, they will pay the invoice to the manufacturer, and they give you 6 months to repay it, and you pay back. It's at an annual interest rate of about 10%, give or take. But if you've had it for 6 months, which is what the facility's for, it's 5%. So if you've got 100 grand's worth of inventory, you pay $5,000 plus the 100 grand back in 6 months. So as long as you turn the inventory over in 6 months, it's a fantastic tool.
Oh, at that rate, at 10 points, it's like nothing. It's 50 grand, so grand a week.
Secured against the inventory.
Yeah, there's no surety. It's nuts.
It's a great product.
Yeah, absolutely. So
shout out to NAB.
Yeah. It's sponsored by.
Yeah, I mean, we use them for dry flush as well, and it's been a game changer.
What it does, it takes a lot of the capital that you're formerly ploughing back into inventory. You can start to scale up your operations. So
Correct.
as we come out of through this holiday period, it'll be full guns blazing on recruitment. We've already tried dumping larger orders in there now. And also scaling. Like at the moment, we're only online with when you've got your offer and your model right. We're on online only at the moment on the two of the major platforms, and it's in idle because we don't have the salespeople to be able to handle the volume, which is always a good problem to have. But as soon as we get that, free up that capital from what we'd formerly planned back into inventory, we'll go straight to scale and invest every dollar back into it.
Yeah.
And scale means like with an offer that we've put together, it's like Hermosi talks about, it's a universal offer. You know, radio would work well for this, TV, local TV, newspapers, gazettes, and having some B2B team on the ground to go and knock the doors and build the relationships and whatnot. So, and look, there's plenty of other rabbit holes to go down to spin this thing up. So,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, we're excited. I think we'll put a pin in it, James, there.
Sure.
And we'll call this part one of, I think, maybe a few parts.
Sure.
Because there's so much. I think, look, guys, in the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop some questions in there, and we'll come back to James because we know James really well, and you can see here, this is just scratching the surface of James's experience, and there's so many questions, but we've got one more segment to get to today. But drop the comments below, let James know what you think of what we've covered so far. But I think this is going to be a real hot subject. Yeah, because absolutely. So many of us out here, we know the process of creating wealth that we've all followed is build a successful business and then reinvest the profits into that successful business first. Forget about crypto, forget about trading currencies, forget about all that bullshit, because there is no better return that James can get right now than if he has 100 grand is putting it into his business, because he can turn 100 grand into 200. You can't do that in property, or you can, but it's not going to change your life as much as a business that'll keep putting money in your pocket every month. So this area of learning business and learning to buy value, create value, and scale value is really, really valuable. And then what we do is we buy real estate, or we improve real estate, and then we manufacture those profits. We manufacture and compound. And it's a beautiful segue actually into what we're going to talk about now with Eric, because Eric has done this extremely well off the back of your success with MX and the boys there. Built a 9-figure business and now has been investing in real estate for some time. And today we're going to unpack one deal before we end the pod. It looks like you got a question for James. Or you probably got 50 questions.
No, I have a lot of questions. I was a little quiet during that segment because I was just trying to wrap my head around.
Pull it close.
Right. Why the hell I didn't get the phone call to invest in this business with you? Because I thought we were friends. And it seemed like a fucking good deal.
Dude, we're raising some more. We'll probably raise around and go when we are mid this year. So
we don't want to pay full freight for anything, remember? Yeah, you just taught us that, James.
Yeah. We're friends, right? I don't want this arbitrage bullshit happening.
I'm sitting here about to start another brand and thinking, geez, I need to get involved in James' business.
I got to say, though, like really to be very, very clear on this, I know James really well, and I've watched how hard he worked to find that deal. So it's like anything. When you start, you're optimistically uninformed. You think it's easy. You hear a course. A lot of people have learned what James has learned about acquiring businesses because you did a course to learn that. And you've got you're, optimistic. And then what happens is the realism sets in when you start to actually try and reach out. And James went through a lot of shit to find the deal. And then you go in the valley of despair, like, oh my God, do I even want to do this? And then if you're strong, like James is, you stick. And James is stuck.
I was going to ask, how many deals did you look at, James?
I don't want to sound arrogant, but look, I built a cannon, an absolute war chest of data to go through, and I literally managed to fire a cap, and that was like, fuck, we've got like I got a lot of deals there to look through, and then you got to go through and do the DD, all the call one after the call after the other, after the other, after the other. But I think one point to note there, Adam, is also, this is not for the faint-hearted. A lot of, I have done a course on it. They go out there and promote them as, just buy a business and buy income. That's bullshit. It doesn't work that way. When you grab the tiger by the tail, it's what the fuck you're going to do with it. And if you haven't got the minerals, it's been a long year, I can tell you that.
And it sounds like, I bet you were shitting your pants still at 250. Like everybody would. It's still 250. It's you're nervous. You don't want to fuck it up.
No, it's a bet, and you want to make sure your bet's right. So you got to do as much as you possibly can and go in with your eyes wide open. So, and look, there were surprises. Don't worry about that. Again, pin it for another time. But man, there's a whole laundry list of fun stories I can tell.
Yeah, and we will get them told. Because but it is an amazing opportunity, and I think if you're listening to this and you're interested in that whole space, like Cody Sanchez and many others, Alex Hormozi, they're all playing in this space because it's a huge opportunity, but only the best will survive. And that's why having, like, one of your secrets is you've got a great business partner and you did it together. It would be very tough, I think, doing that sort of thing on your own. You need a sanity check. There's going to be days where he's down and freaking out and days when you're down and freaking out, and just hope that none of them overlap. But it is certainly a huge opportunity.
I know the business you're getting into, Mark, and I think you definitely need to have a chat with James because it's a high-ticket item, and I don't think anyone in that space is doing something similar to that. Because
that's exactly why I was asking
young
the question,
generation's
because I
all
think
about
his model
online.
could work for
It'll
my
work
new brand.
very well for what you're doing.
I agree, and I don't think many people would be doing that.
Yeah, and the way I work with that now, it's called consulting for equity, so I'm happy to have a chat.
No, but actually that's I think totally legit, right? You've built is valuable, and it would, and this for everyone listening, it's kind of a joke that James is making, but one of the mistakes I made when I was younger is thinking that it was a zero-sum game, that if you give something to James, then it comes from you. But actually, the right people add value, and so it's a smaller piece of a bigger pie when you add the right people to the pie. So yeah, it's really smart to partner with people who and Eric is the king of that. So James, thank you for all of that. That was fucking epic, brother.
That was so good.
I love it. I was sitting there genuinely riveted myself. Your superpowers are really unique, and I can't wait to learn more. Eric.
Want a piece of that pie, don't forget.
wet the beak, eh?
Wet the beak.
Wet the beak, as Calico says.
A little bit of yum-yum.
So Eric, for those who don't know Eric is one of a small handful of guys who own a very successful e-commerce business, a 9-figure business, started on the Gold Coast, 2007, 2008. Great success story, 170 staff. But over that time, you've invested in other businesses and scaled them and so on. But we specifically asked you today to unpack one of your property deals, one of your smaller ones, but still a juicy one, just to demonstrate that when you've got dividends coming out of businesses, how to multiply the dividends so that you can get rich fast. And so we're going to unpack one deal in Burleigh. So do you want to just give us a high level of what you did there?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I want everyone to understand that how important it is to have a network and a network of people around you that you trust. So I actually got a phone call about this deal. I wasn't looking for the deal. I wasn't doing due diligence on the deal. I actually got a phone call by a business partner in this deal. And he just rang me and said, listen, I got a property. This is what we're looking at doing. This is the opportunity. Are you keen to come in? So these are the kinds of calls that I get now from my network, which is powerful, right? So it doesn't mean I have to go out there all the time and create my own deals. So I want everyone to remember that. Now, this deal happened back in October of 2020. So fresh, kind of in the midst of COVID. No one knew what was happening, and the deal looked good. It was a house and land deal in Burleigh Heads. There was an original house on a block of land on the hill, and I'm sure that Greg can pull that up. I sent you some photos.
Maybe just pull up the photo at this point of the land so people can see it. Just the subdivision. We'll hold the photos of the actual end product because it'll be a bit of a reveal.
So there was an old house on it, and actually another builder bought it at the time, and he's the one that subdivided it. So he then wanted to get out of the deal for whatever reason, and my mate, who's a builder, rang me and said, listen, this is the scenario. They've subdivided the land already. It's subdivided into two for 4 houses, so 2 houses on each block. So at this point, 2 blocks of land with 2 houses on each, like duplexes.
Approved.
Already approved.
And there's no houses
approved,
on
so architecture's done. No houses are on it, but full approvals in place. Architecture's done. Pretty easy walk-in deal. Now, I did a little bit of due diligence, called a couple agents that I knew in the area. What are things selling for? Build costs were a lot different back then because it was pre-COVID, and we went ahead with the deal. So my friend that brought me into the deal kept one side and built 2, and I bought the other side and built the other 2. So we did a deal. He built all 4 at the same time, which made it a lot more feasible cost-wise and time-wise. So the land purchase was $998,000 for fully approved duplex, plus stamp duty, about $37,000, DA contributions, which is a contribution to council for your DA as an example. And with that, we got a 50% discount because we were building 2. So that was another $30,000. Then you got some architect fees because we made some changes, subdivision costs and whatnot. So total build cost was 1.499 million. So call it 1.5 million. And then you had the land and stamp duty, DA contributions and the rest of it. So total cost was 2.6 million approximately. And this is excluding any GST out of the deal.
Maybe Greg, you can bring up now so we can see the property, some photos of what he built there.
Yeah.
Very cool, contemporary, sloping down a hill, right? So
Yeah. Beautiful
one on
views.
top of the other.
One on top of the other.
Looking straight out over Burleigh Heads.
Yep.
And then next door in the next block was the same, right? One on the high side of the road, one on the low
one
side
on
of
the
the
low
road.
side. And the interesting thing with this was it was dual street frontage. So what we ended up doing is instead of having 2 houses on one lot, we actually went back to council and added even more value to the property by getting it fully subdivided. So we now have 4 blocks of land, individual houses on 4 blocks of land, and all individual addresses. So it wasn't, 1A and 1B address. It was literally, you've got, number
Title.
74 and you've got number 75. And on the other one, as an example, was a total different street. So total different street name, and the access came from that street, which added a massive amount of value.
It's a huge value add for what, a 3-month process at council?
Correct, yeah. And council on the Gold Coast in Queensland, which you'll find out, they're here. They want to do business.
That's awesome.
That's why the likes of, Harry Triggerboff, who owns Meriton, love investing heavily on the Gold Coast and in Queensland, particularly because New South Wales, just everything takes that much longer. So with that, we purchased it October 2020 and fully completed in December 2021.
At a cost of 2.6?
About 14 months. Yeah, at a full cost of 2.6. I injected a little over $1 million in cash. There was reasonings for that at the time. You can easily do this with less cash if you wanted to, and I've worked that out for you as well. So most recent bank val, which was mid-2022, came in at 4.8 million. So, total profit of about 2.17, give or take, with a cash on cash return on the $1 million of about 210% in about 14 months. So it worked out really well.
Did you retain them? You own them, right?
And I've retained them. I'm in a big kind of hold pattern at the moment. I'm a big believer that prices will keep creeping up. And I own both, and one we're getting $16.95 a week rent, and the other one's $1,650 a week rent. Wow. So they're
you did that
high
with $1
quality.
million of debt.
Yeah, $1 million of debt, but I've worked it out backwards, right? So if total costs were at 2.61 and you wanted to get an 80% lend, right, which you can get on this very easily if you had the serviceability, right? And when I say serviceability, guys, for those of you guys that don't know, basically it's the amount of income that you have that can service the loan, right? And that's changed dramatically over time, because when I did this project, interest rates were at around 3%, you know, with an offset account, which I had cash in. So my actual interest amount on this project was quite low. But even if you added, you know, an extra 50, 60 grand a year over the 4 months in interest, it's negligible in the big scheme of things in this. So I worked out at an 80% LVR, you'd have to put in about 525 grand, which is 20% of the 2.6 million cost, as an example. And that would be about a 414% cash on cash return.
In a little over a year.
Yeah, about 14 months. Now this one's a little bit different because we rode that kind of COVID bandwagon, right? So the numbers could be a little bit skewed. Like could you do this today and, you know, in 14 months? I'm sure there's deals out there that you can. Like James, you know, you got to take the time and you got to look for these deals. It's not, you know, you should be looking at multiple deals. You don't just go and buy the first one. But even if it wasn't, and it was 50% worse off,
Totally, yeah.
And that's what I'm doing still, right? So the deals that I'm doing now, right, the cash on cash returns aren't as good as this, but at the end of the day, if my cash on cash return was 210 and I get now 80 or 90, it's still amazing, you know.
It's still much better than the bank.
These deals are always out there. Sometimes there's more of them, sometimes there's less of them, but you make the money when you buy.
Yeah.
Right. So those deals are always out there. Yes, you had COVID at your back and whatnot, but there's always something.
So this was interesting because we didn't buy a raw block. Then you had to go and do a DA and architects. So that's 6 months, right? That's why it took us 14 months, right? Really, this probably would have taken about 20 months, I would say, roughly. Because you'd have to do the DA, you'd have to engage consultants, architects, engineers. We bought that already fully approved. So we started building straight away.
I think that's a key point as well. If you have all those street frontages, you can subdivide the block and then you don't have to go through a town planning application to get the unit sites.
Correct.
Whereas a lot of people go through that 12 to 18 month period and then sometimes they get rejections or objections and it gets prolonged. But subdividing the blocks is actually a really smart strategy.
And then there's so much you can do after, right? Like you can sell them, take the cash, you know, hold it for a year, 50% CGT, capital gains exemption. You can keep them as I'm keeping them. You can then go and refinance out of it at the new bank val, suck money back out, reinvest that in different things, and go from there. So there's multiple strategies you could then go, you know, and use from there.
Mate, you're a wog. You never sell property.
You know what? I sold since I've been in Australia, I've sold 3 properties, and I try to put that in my past because I don't like thinking about what they're worth today, because honestly, it irritates the shit out of me. So now I'm just like keep, because I'm all about time in the market, not timing the market, you know. And I know a few old school Greeks that have owned, they don't sell anything, they keep everything.
Totally.
And I'm telling you, the amount of wealth that they achieve over time is unbelievable. We'll be sitting here, right, in 10 years' time looking at this deal and going, yeah, it was okay. Oh, wow, you know, because prices are just going to keep going over time. You know, there'll be peaks and troughs is my belief, but they will always go up, just like sliced bread and fuel. And
especially
James's
places
linen
like,
shirts.
And especially like Burleigh Heads. I mean, you nailed the area, looking straight out over James Street and the beach. Look at you guys. But no, there you go. Lots of wisdom, Eric. Thank you for sharing the deal. And we will share more of the deals that we have been doing in our lives and are doing in our lives. Eric's doing some awesome stuff at the moment in the commercial space, in a hotel space. Some really fascinating things that I can't wait to dive into in future pods with you. But again, guys, if you want more of this content, drop a comment, a like, and subscribe, guys, because you know this content in order for us to get on some amazing guests, they want to come onto shows where there are followers, because that's why they come on, is to make sure that their message is being amplified. So the more people that subscribe, the more people that comment, the more traction we get on the channel. So help us share the news that there is a pod in Australia that's professionally, well, semi-professionally produced by a bunch of lads that are talking about real shit, you know, like to Eric and these guys. A Rolls Royce to Eric is a dirty building in Burleigh. That's his Rolls Royces, right? Same with me, right? Like we're trying to make a show here that is not just talking convoluted bullshit, that's actually talking real shit that we are doing in business and investing to manufacture wealth in order for the average person over time to escape the rat race and live a liberated life where they are unemployable, because everything they look at is just not comparable to what they know how to do through their own experience. Eric?
And out of these 3 stories, there's no reason why people that are watching this can't do it, right? We're not bringing you stories where you need $10 million. Mark's story, 80 grand. James's story, 250 grand, which he
did with 2 guys.
250, which he actually didn't pay for. I think he mentioned about 125 grand or so in actual physical cash. And my story is again a little bit more, but for 525,000 you could get into this deal. Now, someone like Sam raised $2 million in a day.
Sam's a young man in our orbit who's 21.
Yeah, 21.
21, went out and found a deal only 5 minutes from where we're sitting, and contacted a few people in our community and raised $2 million in cash in a few days for that deal.
Yeah, so don't forget, you don't have to do these things alone. You know, if you have 20 grand, find 4 other people with 20 grand and do a deal like Mark. You know, if you have 50 grand, find 3 people and do a deal like James if you want to put in the time and the effort in the business.
How do you find those people? You share this pod with all your friends and see who comes back and says, dude, I'm super interested. I want to be where those guys are.
It's about the deal maker. I mean, they'll hold the ultimate power. I mean, it's the person who's going to go bolt the deal together is the conduit between it all, and there'll always be cash.
There's no shortage of money. Like, look at Eric here. He's genuinely pissed off that he didn't get a sniff over here. And I say this to Eric, and I say this to other guys. Like,
thought we were friends,
dirty
thought
bastards.
we were friends.
No, but that's why we're doing the boat coming up for our coaching clients. We're putting them on the boat together because they're going to build relationships. We're going to talk about deals that you've done and they're coming up. You know, one of the guys who joined our coaching is in that project with you in Thailand where you built the 15-story high-rise, and I've seen the numbers. I'm like, you fuckers better invite me on the next one, right? Because that's how it gets done, is by building relationships. So next year we will be opening the coaching again. So if you want to come and join this community of people, if you are sitting there on your own, you don't have a network, come and join us. You know, we do stuff with our coaching clients. And in February, we're taking them out on a big 80-foot yacht here to build relationships and talk business. And it's just an extension of the pod. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because Troy, that particular person, is in the US right now for 3.5 weeks, just running amok with his missus and having a great time. And we've just sold one of his other properties that he bought off the plan that he's just settling on the 22nd, which is tomorrow. And he's just made 450 grand on that while he's in the US, you know, going to UFC events, basketball events, you know, NHL events, and he's making money at the same time. It's unbelievable, and that's what we want. You know, all of us to be doing, including you guys, the ones that are watching this, going, you know, how do I do this? This is so inspiring. Just keep watching, keep connecting, and you will be building your own network very shortly.
It never happens alone. It always happens with the help of great people around you. And I think this is such a great show and platform for people to kind of start that conversation. Totally. Like Adam said, share the video, let them see who comes back to you with some interest and some passion, because there's nothing like partnering up with people with passion.
But also the questions too. Like
just quickly, remember, while we're talking about partnering up with people with interest and passion, James again is single, ladies. He's looking out to partner with people with passion all the time.
Yeah. Don't put that in the comments. Just DM me straight up. and a little bio if it wouldn't hurt. You know, I want a 10-question survey.
What's your Instagram? How do we smash your DMs?
What's the address for fan mail? We start saying underwear and things.
It's James Denham.
It's James Denham on Instagram, ladies. Go your best.
Yeah. Ladies.
Ladies.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And out of respect, he actually did do his top button up today.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. It was quite distracting last couple of podcasts.
You were going to say something though, James. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, just saying, but getting back to the reality about the comments. Like, put in the comments, like, what do you want to know? Get some feedback. Are we hitting the mark or not? And if we are, it'll certainly make good fodder or good topics for the following pods.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you for watching. As always, we deeply appreciate your attention and your being here. Tell your friends, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Have a beautiful day. Gentlemen, thank you for coming in. I use the term loosely, but thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And we're going to take a lot of this discussion offline now, and because I know we want to dig into stuff. Yeah, well, this come out just after Christmas, but Merry Christmas. Hope it was safe, and let's watch the...
I'm going to be harassing James for the next 2 weeks on this deal.
All right, guys, that's it. Bye for now.
So.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. Here's a fun but sad fact for us. Most people who love our content are still not subscribed to the channel. Now, I totally get it. Normally, when you subscribe to something, it involves giving up your email address and then you get bombarded with emails, people trying to sell you stuff and all of that. But in the world of YouTube, that doesn't happen. We don't get your email address and we don't bombard you. All it means is when you log into YouTube, you'll see our channel there and you can easily click on it and check out our latest content. Now, here's the deal that I will make with you. If you can find it in your heart to click on the little subscribe button below, I promise you that we will get better and better guests on this show so that we can interview them for you to give you better and deeper insights from people that have really done some crazy good stuff. And I promise you that we'll be working harder than ever to make this show even better for you. So that's the deal. If you click on that little subscribe button, hit the notifications bell as well, we would be deeply grateful and we'll make a better show for you going forward. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.